This is where Indy and I every week have an HCC Smart Decision of the Week. Now, you struggled to come up with one, you said. What do you got?
Well, you know what I came up with? It's always good to say sorry when you know you've made a mistake, especially if you're a billionaire. And what I'm talking about is Tony Sperano and the Miami Dolphins. It was a fiasco last week. The owner of the team was interviewing different guys publicly. Everybody was reporting that, you know, the Stanford coach Harbaugh was going to Miami, and all this was being done while you still had a head coach in place. The Harbaugh deal fell through, and everybody in Miami just looked ridiculous. But what I do like, the owner publicly with cameras gave him an extension, Tony Sperano, and said, I apologize, I went about it the wrong way. And what that does, that instills confidence in this coach and the coaching staff, and the players are still going to look to their head coach as a leader. And nobody would have been upset with the owner for firing him after 2 7-9 seasons. You just can't do that in the NFL. But at least fire him, then try to fill the void. Don't try to fill the void while you still have a head coach, and if things don't go right, you're sitting there saying, oh, we still want you. Because guys remember that. Head coaches remember that. Players remember that. They're all professionals, but they know for that week or two you had no confidence in your head coach. So I really like that the owner said publicly, I'm sorry, and gave him an extension.
Stephen Ross is a billionaire, and it shows you how guys build their fortunes and they get into pro sports. They do some really stupid things. He said he didn't think it was going to get out. He takes his general manager and his consultant, Carl Peterson. They fly across the country. They interview Jim Harbaugh, and he thinks it's not going to get out. I think it showed a low class on the part of Harbaugh for interviewing for a job that Tony Sperano had. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't think Jim Harbaugh knows the code in the NFL. You know, the NFL head coach.
He's in the NFL for 15 years as a player, and he coached 2 years with the Raiders.
But I really think right now he's riding the high, riding the wave. Everybody wants him. He was demanding $8 million a year one season. He was being selfish. He was being pretentious. He wasn't thinking about anybody else but himself. And I think if he had a chance to step back, you're absolutely right. He may have said, you know what, I don't want to interview for a job that hasn't been vacated yet. But I think during that time, since he was the hot guy in the entire NFL, he was only focused on himself.
Well, he should have been more cognizant of what was going on in Miami. Now, my smart decision of the week, you being a Rice grad, I know you're going to agree with this. People actually ripped Stanford quarterback Andrew Luck for going back to school for his junior year. What did you think about it?
I thought it was a gutsy move, and I'm not going to rip him. It was his decision to make, and it lets you know how serious he and his family, Oliver Luck, about education. And like you said, a Rice grad, I don't think you could ever go against someone choosing school over anything else. But why do you go to school? So you could get that career, so you could get that money. So
no,
you
go to school to get a degree.
And get that education, but like they always say, you could always go back and get that degree, but your window for earning potentially hundreds of $millions for a guy like Andrew Luck is only 10 to 15 years, so you strike while the iron's hot. He's not going to get a better draft position next year. All he could do is risk injury. He's not going to have a better season. They went 12-1 this year, won the big bowl game. I really would have liked to see him go because he's already a mature kid. Any kid that can make this decision is a mature kid. I would like to have seen him go to the NFL and maybe get those classes in the offseason.
He's only been in college as a player 2 years. He redshirted. He's not exactly in the poorhouse with his family, with Oliver being the AD at West U, and Oliver made a lot of money in his career. And so he wants a chance to win a Heisman. He came in with guys from a winless team, and they built up something special. I'm guessing they'll end up number 3 in the country. And he's got a chance, they believe, even though Jim Harbaugh is gone, those players think they got a chance to come back and compete for the national championship. Plus, I know you know how this is. I would not know how this is at Baylor. But I'm sure it was a pretty big deal to be the big man on campus. Was it?
I mean, it's a huge deal, and you can't put a price on it. And, again, I respect his decision, but just looking at it from a business standpoint, it makes me a little nervous. But then you could look to the Oklahoma quarterback who came back for another year, got hurt, Bradford, and he still was the #1 pick. So I think he saw that, and that helped make his decision, saying, you know what, if I do get hurt, people know I could recover and still be the great quarterback that I'm going to be. So I respect the decision, but I'm also a little bit nervous because I don't think there's much he could gain.
Peyton Manning took a lot of grief. It worked out okay with him, and I think the uncertain labor situation had something to do with it too.